why I have started to get much more inclined towards the advantages of virtual hearings. And I will go through each of them one by one, which are there in front of you. Let's start with the first one. The basis of a hearing in an arbitration is not a physical day in court. It is simply an opportunity to present one's case. And with today's audio and video technology, ideas and positions can be efficiently conveyed over large distances. Arguments can be efficiently made irrespective of where people are sitting. And this is happening without statements being so-called lost in translation. If you think about it, in some ways, it's almost as if I'm sitting right in front of you and having this conversation with you. And think about this a little more. This is the first time in our 2 million-year human history that we can communicate so efficiently over such large distances. By contrast to this, in March 2021, right before the second wave of the pandemic hit India, I had the privilege of appearing before the Honorable High Court of Delhi. This was in an arbitration appeal under Section 37 of the Arbitration Act. I was led by Mr. Rajshekhar Rao the day before he became designated as a senior advocate. And this was in that short spell where the Delhi High Court had suddenly opened up for hearings in a physical format. And I was looking forward to the experience. And when we went there, this is how the court looked. So this is how the courtroom actually looked. We were standing on one end, and there were 2 layers of fiberglass, as well as about a few layers of masks between us and the judge, and a 15 feet distance. Counting all the layers that were between us, there were about 4 or 5 of them, and the judge, his staff, and we were communicating amongst ourselves the best we could through the help of microphones and speakers, as well as trying our best to make eye contact while making submissions. While the hearing went well, we came out happy, but the detachment of the experience further inclined me towards the advantages of virtual hearings, because I came out thinking that perhaps the hearing would have gone the same if we had done it virtually, and perhaps I would have actually preferred to see the expressions of the judge when we were making the submissions. And therefore, I also realized that what we were actually missing was the charm of going to court, as well as the social interactions and the opportunities that came with it. In sharp contrast to this experience was the experience of cross-examining witnesses on a large screen in an international arbitration we did last year under the ICC rules, where we had access to excellent technology and opportunity to work with good transcription teams, stable online dispute resolution services providers, and with the help of new age technology and big screens, we were able to have larger than life images of the witness while we were cross-examining them. So much so that every flicker of the eye and every bead of sweat falling down the face was clearly visible as well as magnified. Think about it. For the first time, we are also able to do such a thing whereby when arguing, we can see the tribunal, the witnesses, the transcription, as well as our own notes and documents in the same 180-degree field view. All you need to do is add a couple of more screens. Moreover, with the ability to focus the witness and the tribunal's attention on a specific part of the document, and the ability to confront a witness by casting a document on the screen and looking at their magnified expression, works like a charm if you can get it right. As such, in today's reality check pandemic world, given the social distance and mask protocols, I believe that virtual hearings are the best bad option forward. They are often just as efficient as physical hearings, if not more. And at least during the pandemic era, they often end up being a more personal advocacy experience. Virtual hearings also allowed justice to be dispensed and disputes to be resolved, businesses to move on who are waiting for finality for business disputes. My second reason for getting more inclined towards virtual hearings is that there is a substantial reduction in costs. Arbitration came on the scene about 100 years ago as a cheaper and more efficient alternative to resolving disputes as opposed to courtroom litigation. However, costs have become a very major issue in arbitration, and there are many examples of this situation. For instance, the 62 million US dollar legal costs award, or a 450 crore plus legal cost award to our late professor Emmanuel Gaillard in UCO and his team in UCOs versus Russia, to many others. Now, in addition to lawyers and arbitrators' fees, a large amount of money in any arbitration is spent on flying everybody to the same city, hosting them up in hotels, renting hearing venues, as well as printing and shipping documents to arbitrators in different parts of the world. Full disclosure, I have been the beneficiary of traveling and staying fancy for work, and I have enjoyed that at the relevant times. But at the same time, I've had moments in my career when I've looked at cost submissions during the cost submission stage at the end of an arbitration, and just felt appalled at the amount of bills that end up just mounting by the end of an arbitration. When we compare virtual hearings to physical hearings, they end up being substantially lesser in cost. And that's simply because hosting a hearing or like a webinar on Zoom is much more cost efficient than renting a venue and getting everybody and ordering refreshments and making sure all the logistics of that are working out fine. Sometimes we end up doing arbitration in a hybrid format. That means some people are appearing by video and some people are appearing in person in a physical hearing. My experience so far has been that hybrid hearings end up costing much more than either physical or virtual hearings. And that's simply because you have to do twice the effort, do everything 2 times over. You have to have double infrastructure, which in arbitration, unlike in court, we rent on a pay-per-use basis. So you end up paying both the hearing venue as well as the online dispute resolution service provider. So in summary, wholly virtual hearings and trials end up clearly costing much less than doing this party in person. The client does not have to pay for business class flights and 5-star hotels and venue costs, and documents don't have to be couriered to people all across the world. The third reason why I have started getting more inclined is that virtual hearings reduce the stress on the system. Pendency of disputes is a macro issue that is plaguing a lot of developing countries. And you realize that pandemic is just increasing that problem. The National Judicial Data Grid shows that we have substantially increased the pendency of our disputes before the courts in the 2019 to 2020 period, and we're still going to have to wait to see how it comes out in 2021. But clearly there is a lot of pendency, and these and just adjourning hearings is just clogging up the system even more. virtual hearings also ensures that short hearings can happen quickly. Instead of handling everything together, you can have short hearings which can be scheduled much easily because of the lack of logistics involved in flying everybody to the same place and hosting everybody. It's just easier. And the last reason is our carbon footprint. Let's face it, we lawyers have a very high carbon footprint. I can't speak for everybody, but personally, I know I have burned through a lot of tanks of petrol just like shuttling from one court to another in Delhi. And even in, for instance, in 2019, I spent about a month sleeping on a plane doing 15 overnight round trips between Singapore and India, shuttling back and forth. There is a lot of travel which is involved in an arbitration counsel's life. It has always been a part of our work. And despite the fact that we may enjoy some parts of it and not others, but there is no denying that there was a substantial carbon footprint that comes with it. And we also, as lawyers, rely heavily on printed materials, books, and various other things, which is something that we can reduce when you're doing virtual hearings. Instead of printing multiple sets of the same documents, if your hearing is on the screen and when you have to cast the documents on screen, you start getting more used to just using documents in soft copy. And therefore, in summary, I think virtual hearings are here to stay. We should embrace them and learn to ace them.